Hey y'all, this is Dan with the Hemp Highway of Kentucky. Welcoming you to another episode of Hemp Threads, Weaving in Industry. Today I am pleased to bring in a hardware manufacturer and beyond that I believe, Vini Villatoro. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Close
it's
enough?
perfect. Man. You did the effort, but that's must really matter, honestly.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your patience with that. You're the Chief Operating Officer of Global Hemp Solutions, and if people have been to any events back in the day when we had events, I know that you guys had a huge presence. So some folks may be a lot more familiar with you than others. And so, how you doing today? And how is business since COVID hit?
Well, I'm doing great. A little bit missing the action of traveling and going back and forth to different places. Business is slow, can you imagine? A lot of people that were thinking and going ahead on 2020, they taking a stance of like, what is going on? Is it really going? And of course, if you add that to the dramatic price changes on CBD oils, it is massive. I always say this. I remember when I was selling my kilos of crude oil, when I was producing my oil, I sold them for $16,000. And now the same kilo of crude oil, I've seen prices for $100. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, it's changed. And that was actually going to be my follow-up question: is how much do you relate the slowdown to the health crisis, and how much of it to the market just going because of oversupply?
Is honestly, I don't think COVID is because the prices were low before COVID.
True.
And then the only thing that COVID did, it was just destroy the people that were barely surviving or maybe taking some savings to keep the equipment running and stuff like that. The price were, I'm, I'm surprised because I remember when I was buying biomass, I pay even $135 per pound. Imagine that.
Biomass.
Biomass, $135 per pound. And it was 8%, 10%. When I hit 10% CBD biomass those days, I was like, man, that's amazing. Now I see
Right.
prices for $1.75 per pound. I'm blown away. But the costs, I mean, you cannot go lower than this. This is what I'm thinking with people with true um, entrepreneur mindset right now. I've been telling them, listen, this is the rock bottom. This is the price of electricity. This is the price of the ethanol. This is the gas for electricity for the steamers. This is the cost. I mean, you cannot go less than this. So the only expectancy from now on is to go up. And this is something that I've been promoting for a long time. We need the FDA to give the approval because I've been telling this. CBD, the hemp industry is legal. And I always quote it like that because everything, you know, that everything that we put inside our mouth has to be approved by the FDA. And none of the products have been approved by the FDA. And we are putting a bunch of stuff. So is it legal? Yes, but imagine, even I always say that if you go to Canada, you buy Coca-Cola from Canada, you bring it into the US, you cannot sell it here. That's illegal because the FDA needs to give the seal of approval. And we're putting CBD oil products inside us without the FDA approval. And I'm pretty sure that as soon as we have that approval, and I saw that the recent paper out there with the FDA regulations, as soon as we have that one, everything is going to go back to not to the crazy $16,000 a kilo. Forget about that. Was I struck gold.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
Yes. And I even when I saw the CBG, I saw a couple sales, $116,000 a kilo of CBG. Imagine those people was crazy. And when you do in European pharmaceutical GMP certified products, then the pharma companies in Europe, they're paying top dollars. That's why Uruguay is doing so great, because they are European GMP certified. They're selling flowers only, not only, no, just two companies are selling isolate, THC isolate to Europe, and they're making a killing in there. But here in the US, I was talking to someone yesterday and he asked me, what do you think this industry is going kaput? And the analogy that I did then is that I don't have anything against people smoking weed. Nothing against them. I have never smoked weed in my life. You can do whatever you want with your life. But the issue is, if you want to smoke weed, do it. But the potheads are the one running the labs. That's a huge mistake, because they were doing a couple of things in the backyard, in their sheds, in the patio, and now they decided to go into, we are the industrial hemp. I was telling them, that's like kind of like building a 7-story building and say, give this guy the shop because he built 3 sheds in the backyard. You will never do that in your mind, in your right mind. But that's what is happening with this industry. That's why a bunch of fires in Colorado, in California, and Oregon, because yes, you were doing a couple of things small, but when you go industrial, you're not doing it properly. And that's why here in the US, is very anyone is a GMP certified. Nonetheless, European certified, almost no one.
Yeah, actually, I think, you know, when I started sniffing around the CBD hemp industry back in 2016, I think people were just ignorant of any sort of standardized process control. You know, it's like, I've got the magic thing in my head and I do it. And if I show anybody what I'm doing, they're going to steal it. And I saw your background as you're an engineer. And so, you know, I'm not an engineer, but I've dealt with people with your background. And when I was manufacturing, they wanted to see our process. They wanted to see it from the time we brought the raw material in to the time we certified it going out the door, what steps we had to make sure that product was not just acceptable, but consistent. And as the customer, they felt, and rightfully so, it was a culture shock for us. They felt they had the right to not necessarily own the process, but approve it.
Man, you hit the nail. And I hope I remember to tell you the 2 stories. One is consistent formulation, and the other one I'm going to tell you intellectual property. So I met this guy. He has a couple of pharmacies. He has business. He knew nothing about CBD oil. Then he came into us and I said, okay, this is what you need to do. So we sold them the extraction system. We sold them the molecular distillation. We sold them chromatography. We sold them the whole equipment, build his lab. And when I was ready to go over there and start doing some videos on the facilities, like I always do, you know, because that's what I do. Just to show people that we're really, in fact, building what we say we're building. He told me, you can't do that. So when I was going to the facility, he took my phone and he said, it's this intellectual property. Like, what in the heck are you talking? You knew nothing. I taught you everything that you know here. I taught you. I was the one who sent you the SOPs we built. We wrote them for you. We are doing the training. And now you're telling me that it's intellectual property? It is, I don't know. People are crazy. And this is funny because my wife works for an oil industry. Oil and gas industry, and I've seen what they do. Every single oil company, they send information to a company. This is how we did it. This is how we did the completion. This is how we did clean. This is how and then they get in return a benchmark what the other companies are doing. So the information regarding how are they drilling the wells, how are they completing it, how are they refining, it's out there. It's public because they think this is important in order to grow the industry.
And for public safety.
Yes, but in the CBD, oh no, this is intellectual property. Listen, if only they knew that what we are doing is exactly what the oil and gas are doing, extracting, refining, and then we should be really doing what you call it consistent formulation. I always say like this, is everywhere you go to buy a Big Mac, it's the same, regardless of which food is going to build. If it's an Hispanic in the kitchen, or a black guy, or a Chinese, it doesn't matter who is behind in the kitchen. The Big Mac tastes always the same. But with the CBD oil products, hell no, because there's no consistent formulation. So imagine you buy a Coke and it doesn't taste the same all the time. But that's what's happening with the CBD oils, because there's no industrialization, there's no equipment, there's no background, there's no engineers, there's no, it's just, I'm sorry for that, but the potheads are running the labs. And the people that came with the idea of make a bunch of money, they saw those guys as an opportunity to make a lot of money. They don't understand nothing. Unless people with really entrepreneurial mindset, they say, okay, let's do it. But they're going to build a facility with C1, D1 rooms. They're going to be building it with, according to the GMP. They want equipment that is UL certified. I mean, the whole 9 yards.
And there's a lot to it. I do some rep work for a company, Plastic Services Network, that does all sorts of testing. And one of the projects they were working on was how metals leach things out when exposed to different acids. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid. It was like the acids in coffee or tea or,
yes,
you know, a carbonated beverage. Those things all have certain chemicals in them. And if your metals aren't right going in, or your plastic in the handling, and I don't think people thought about that at all. So you see this influx of equipment made from manufacturers that are kind of like, you know, a couple of guys tinkering around in a garage, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, you know, I did a couple posts regarding that one because, to be honest with you, when I began with this, the first thing I did is I bought a centrifuge extractor, and I thought, man, this is nice. Only buy the biomass. I buy a centrifuge extractor, put the biomass out there, mix it with ethanol and full spectrum crude oil. Yeah, what a surprise, right? The only thing I have is mycella. And then it's, so what is this? And I knew I have to winterize it. Just a fancy word to get rid of the fats, the lipids, and the waxes. Then I have to filter it. Then I have to decolor. Then I have to dechlorophyll. Then I have to use other lenticulars or paper or carbon filters in order to get rid of the heavy metals and stuff like that. Then I recover the ethanol, or the solvent recovery. Then I decarboxylate it. And finally, I have the full spectrum crude oil. But what I was telling you is this is because there's a bunch of manufacturers here, and some of them, a lot of them from China, others from India, and others here. They are selling you the centrifuge extractor like the solution for your extraction. And now when I'm telling people, listen, yeah, Vini, why you're insisting this one costs $500,000 when I can buy an extractor for $45,000 from China? Yeah, but this is only the micellar. So when I explain the whole process, they say, so what do I need to do now? You need to buy this equipment for the winterization. You need to buy chillers or use liquid natural in our case because it's faster and you don't use that much electricity. You have to buy lenticular filters and you have to buy the. By the time you keep adding on, he says, so it will be cheaper if I buy your system that is $500,000. But what I found in, I think it's humankind, it is people cannot handle the truth then. They want to hear the lie. They want to hear with, I'm going to put $20,000 here and I'm going to make $1 million every week. It's like remember the rush for the gold that everybody with the gold fever, it was everybody would jump into this, we're going to make a bunch of money. The only thing I really like about the COVID, I really loved it, is a bunch of those joker brokers, pretenders, wannabes, they went away because now they're selling masks, they're selling gel sanitizer, they're selling all that stuff, and they walk away from the CBD oil, and I'm like, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
Year ago, go ahead. Sorry, Dan.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. I've noticed that too. I could go through my message box on LinkedIn and the pivot from, hey, I've got a line on isolate to I can give you 20 cases of hand sanitizer. I mean, it was within a month of the economy shutting down that stuff just flooded. It was amazing. Great observation.
Yes, and you know, I travel to China a lot and Europe a lot, and we have a couple of manufacturers that would still work in China. When I was there, maybe like 2 years ago, one of them showed me a facility that they have another factory that they use. They call it sister companies. Chinese are smart. Whether we like them or not, they're smart. So they showed me a facility that they were doing masks, and how I saw it, and it's like, so I don't care, right? I'm to CBD oil. And so as soon as this thing hits, they reach out to me and said, Vini, do you think mask is something that we can sell in the US? And I said, yeah, sure. So they sent me a video. As a matter of fact, I think I recorded a video of that facility over there when I went to China. So I did a video. I said, man, if you're looking for masks, this is the manufacturer. I've been there. I know them. We have deals. We have done deals with them. And I got loaded. You have no idea. A bunch of brokers pretend to want to be. And I said, you know what? I deleted the post. I don't want to deal with, because those guys, the manufacturer for the mask, is real. But the bunch of pretenders, and you know it's unreal when they say, I want to buy 200 million of masks every day, or unicorns. I mean, the numbers that you're talking about, it's always crazy. So it's nonsense. So I deleted the post. I called the guy on the manufacturer, a really nice guy, called it Darren, the owner. And his brother is Jack. And I say, Darren and Jack, I'm really sorry, guys. This is what is happening. And they say, no, Vinny, trust me. No, I know, guys. I know you. We've done business. But industry for that is just, no thanks. No.
It's mercenary as hell is what it is.
It is, it is. So what we are pushing is into fiber. We think fiber is something that is going to be, in my opinion, a lot better than CBD until we have the FDA approval.
I agree. It's actually, I've got a couple of interviews with people in the fiber industry in the pipeline, so that'll be really kind of interesting to feed in there. One of the things you brought up early on, and I don't know if people think about it this way yet in this industry. You were talking about, you got your cost for electricity, your ethanol, your fixed costs, right? Or, maybe some of them vary, who knows? But what I'm thinking is, are people starting to think about efficiency and like how they set up their production line and how they, flow of materials? Or is it just like, they're running all over the place and a Six Sigma guy could come in and really help somebody clean up?
I'm an engineer, but I have a business degree and I have a master's degree, an MBA, and I have another master in operations research. It's econometrical models. So statistics to the fullest. And everything that I do is always based on numbers. When I was making my facility in Colorado, when I was making my crude oil, I was always running it as efficient as possible. And I was always telling myself, there's no way that the profits are going to continue the same. So we need to be efficient. That's why I remember, I'm going to tell you how we start selling equipment. I wasn't selling equipment. I was having my own facility. I'm building my own crude oil and doing my own equipment. And I thought, man, 6,000 acres. Then we went to 18,000 acres. Then we went to 25,000 acres. And I thought, man, industry is going to grow. So we need to have equipment to process 1,000 pounds a day. Every single manufacturer here in the US that does extraction, I visited. Delta Separation, Sigma, Luna Technology. I mean, you name it, I've been there. IES for CO2s, all of them. I visited them and I was telling them I need an equipment to process 10,000 pounds a day. And they were telling me, you're crazy. Why do you need that big equipment? Because I know the margins that we have right now, we're not going to have it in the future. I saw the trend, when we hit 78,000 acres in, I think it was 2018. I thought, my goodness, we tripled from 25,000 acres to 78,000 acres. This is just so that I'm on the right track. I was already on the track. No one had equipment for 10,000. And I was thinking about efficiency. So I've been working with China in different industries prior to CBD. So I went to China, I visited manufacturers, and they were giving me an equipment. They gave me a quote, and I said, can we do a small change? What is it? I don't want to use chillers to bring down the temperature. I'm going to use liquid nitrogen. So I told them, this is the design that I want. This is the change. I give them the specs, and they say, it'll be more expensive. Don't worry about that. Just to give you an example then, we were using 261 kilowatts of electricity per hour. And when we changed it from chillers to liquid nitrogen, we brought it down to 64. So 211 kilowatts per hour of efficiencies or saving every single freaking hour.
And Colorado electricity is not necessarily.
It doesn't
the
matter
cheapest
where
in the
you
country.
are. It doesn't matter where you are. When you reduce your electricity for almost, goodness gracious, 80%. And when I was telling that, people were saying, but why do you need that? Efficiencies. Efficiencies. They didn't care. And at that time, you know, the biomass, I was paying $35, $40 a pound that day. And we were selling the kilos of crude oil for maybe $4,000, $6,000 then. But I saw that the efficiencies was key. And that's a key to every single business in my single humble opinion. Yeah. Then when we grow to 511,000 acres, I was like, that's it. And now people are thinking, yeah, we need to be efficient. We need to be, now it's too late. That's why you see a bunch of equipment, used equipment selling out there because they couldn't survive because they were making a killing. They were selling a bunch of crude oil, making a bunch of money without and the most stupid thing was this, you know, as usual. Then you're making money and then you buy the $78,000 truck and you buy this stupid things and they're not reinventing or reinvesting into the company.
No.
But again, it's because they have never been a really business-minded person. They were just lucky that they were in an industry. And I mess with Jeremy, my partner, and he says, and this is a joke, say that he's been growing cannabis and hemp legally for 10 years. So he says legally. So in his case, he was in Washington. He was doing legally and he knows everything. But some of those guys, they were just extracting oils and doing something in the backyard and they struck gold. But they knew nothing about engineering process or flows or flow rates or nothing. And that's
or environmental controls. I mean, that's why you got people blowing themselves up or having materials. I mean, I did I think in 2017, I was working with some people, you know, I helped them get their farm started and they put their whole extraction stuff in a barn with dirt floors and like, you know, birds and I'm like, wow. And then they wouldn't let me take pictures, which is probably good for other reasons, but they were like, you know, we don't want anybody to know, you know, our recipe. And I'm like, yeah, I think you don't want people to know that the floor is dirt. And but you know, I mean, that goes back to Kentucky's cottage industry laws too, which are very lenient on a lot of health and safety regulations if you're doing it from your home or farm.
Even though I'm not too fond of the pharmaceutical companies, the only one thing that I like about them is when they do things, they do it the right way. When it comes to manufacturing pharmaceutical products, I'm not going to be talking about the crazy deals that they make and the profits that they make because it's a stupid, crazy, insanely nasty.
That's politics.
Yes. But at least the way they build the manufacturing facilities, and I'm telling you this because I worked for a pharmaceutical company when I was in Panama. So that's the right way to do it because then it's a clean environment. I mean, everything has to be according to code. The regulations are there to protect us, not to mess with us.
We did some minor medical device manufacturing, not devices, but components. And we looked at doing ISO, I think it's 14385.
Yes.
And it was like, you couldn't just do a line because that's not the way ISO works. So we looked at it as like, wow, once you're locked in, you can't do anything because it's all been approved for that device. And if you change the process, you got to go through the entire recertification process. It was, I mean, we didn't pursue it because it was it was way more disciplined than the factory I worked at was willing to put into a project, that's for sure.
So we partnered with a company that is doing GMP certifications all over the world. So they have offices in Australia, Asia, Europe, and stuff like that. Because I guess the key element is you have to hire or to partner with the right people. So they've been doing this for a while. So we have a client in Europe and he says, so now it's legal, so we want to go and build a GMP facility. So we went to Zurich Yes, we went to Zurich. Well, it's not Zurich, but it's close to. I flew to Zurich and then I drove over there to the facility. And I saw the building and I say, we can do it here. Why? I mean, we can't. It's just the building that they have. It was kind of like a, not a barn, but kind of like. And I said, this is not the right way. You want to, and we talk about the prices. And he said, yeah, Vini, I know we can make a lot of money because the buyers that are, they were used to buy from me. They say now we can buy, we can pay you even 7 times more than we're paying right now, but you have to be GMP. So he knew that the profits were there, but at the end we convinced him and he said, okay, so we're gonna do GMP. How much is gonna take me? And then we told him that how much money is gonna be just to get the certificate. And he said, that's way too much money. And I asked him, do you know that in order to do GMP, I call it the 5P, the premises, the products, the paperwork, the process, and the products. And I told him, just by having a visitor, you have to write an SOP, how to treat the visitor. You know, the kind of paperwork he needs to fill out, everything, just a visitor. Now imagine, and I saw he was moving crude oil from one place to the other one. I mean, I was trying to explain him and he's like, yeah, so that was maybe at the beginning of like last year, 2019. I think it was February. He decided to do it with another. No, I have a guy here. He's going to do it for us. Okay, perfect. It was October, November last year. He said, Vini, do you think you can help us with the GMP? And I say, I thought you already had it. They've been working for 9 months. He lost, I don't know how much money with this guy, and they have done nothing. So I hit him again with the same number that this is what we will charge. It requires I told him, you know, the consultants, every single room needs to have separate operations. And told him everything. And again, he said, it's too expensive. Yeah, I'm going to do it on my own way. But those things that you don't understand why, I went into a meeting and he was there like 2 weeks ago. And I asked him, how you doing? We haven't done nothing yet. And now the buyers that he had in 2019, he has lost almost 90% of his clients because they are buying from European GMP.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to wait forever. They got customers they got to fulfill. Hey, do you all think, you know, because we've talked about the extraction end of things and that equipment, and you're selling solutions. Does that also include packaging equipment and things like that, or do you marry that with a company that you prefer to do business with?
Well, we have a company that do some packaging as well. But so far, almost no one has used it. Almost no one, just one company in Europe use them. And the reason is this. Once you start telling them, you need to invest, because again, if you're going to go ISO, if you're going to do pharmaceutical, even the packaging cannot be, let me give you an example. A guy sent me a say, Vini, can you test my products and do this? Yeah, sure. This is what he sent me.
What
no
is
labeling. No, this is a crude oil from CO2 extraction.
Okay, so that tells, I mean, the way he sent it doesn't tell you shit. And once you take it out of the box and separate it from the letter, it's...
So this is the kind of things that people are doing. They just want to go as cheap as possible. And I'm going to beat myself. I'm going to bite myself because the issue is China has great products, great companies. But if you want to buy Chinese crap, like the one you buy at a dollar store, China is the perfect place. But of course, I keep telling people, you bought 5 screwdrivers for $1 and you expect them Craftsman quality. Please, come on. So what people are doing going to China is they're trying to buy the cheapest of the cheapest of the cheapest thing that they can buy on packaging, on boxes, on equipment, on everything. And of course, that's why you have some issues. And you will be surprised then. The companies that we admire from Europe selling, I cannot name names. The companies over there, I've been there in their facilities, how they're using the equipment, and you wouldn't buy nothing. It's like you wouldn't buy nothing from them the way are manufacturing their CBD oil. And they are the leaders, the leading, oh my goodness gracious. I'm going to be saying no names, like companies here in the US that people admire. They have no chromatography equipment whatsoever, and they are selling they have isolated. And what they're doing is they're crashing it with pentane or hexane. By doing that, they're destroying some cannabinoids. I mean, that's not the right way to do it. And that's the company that people admire, because someone told me the other day that the company selling more, either on equipment or products, is the one that's spending a lot more money on marketing, regardless of if their equipment is a piece of crap or if the products are built with less quality possible. And I couldn't agree with him more. There's a guy, he paid close to $5 million, almost maybe 3 years ago, and he still has his equipment running yet. $5 million.
And the company to be sitting on a bunch of inoperative equipment. And I'm assuming when people are coming to you because of the way you're presenting your business, it's an integrated system. You're coming in there, and instead of you're describing guys going out there and piecemealing stuff from a bunch of vendors, you've got an integrated system. And if they bring you in, you're not just shipping them equipment, you're sending a technician in to make sure that that dang line is set up right. And
what we need to be honest is this, there's one guy who's good in extraction. That guy doesn't need to be good in refining with molecular distillation. And that guy most likely doesn't know nothing about chromatography, and most likely the guy doesn't know nothing about compounds or formulations or developing methods. That's why we call it the solutions, and it's global, because we have partnered with a bunch of companies. We have companies here like Plug Supply with Brad Menard, they do genetics and farming. BC Tech, there's a company that they do great equipment. Aisha Labs, they do all the testing. You have to partner with the right people, because listen, I have a bunch of degrees, but let me tell you one thing that I realized. The second master's degree that I got, it took me 3 years to get it. And every single day I was going over there, when the dean was coming to give us a lecture, he was always calling us high schoolers. And I hated it oh my God, every single day. It's like, why are you calling me high schooler? I already have an MBA. I'm getting a second master's degree. 3 years, he was messing with us every single day. The last day, he brought a big book like this thick, and he tossed it over there. He could say, what do you think about that? Everybody was looking at the book and without saying nothing. I looked at the book, and I was like, oh my God, we're not high schoolers. We're middle school. No, this is not, we're elementary. We're, oh my God. And I threw the book out there, and I was, we're so dumb. We're really stupid. We are like ignorant. And all my other, my friends were like, you might be stupid. I'm not out. If you haven't seen it, you're more dumb than me. I went nuts. So the dean said, Mr. Villatoro, that's the first time he called me Master Villatoro. Can you explain them, why are you saying that? Take a look at the book, guys. Yes. Look at chapter 7. And say, yeah. Chapter 7 is our master. 26 chapters on one book. So we are specialized in one chapter of 26 chapters on one book in one thing. So we are extremely ignorant, Daniel. That day I realized how ignorant I was. And if I go over there trying to pretend that I'm the one that knows all, I'm crazy. So when I talk to people and they say, I am an expert, I'm like, yeah, so I'll need to move away from you. Because I'm not an expert then. I am not an expert. I am not an expert. I'm not. Maybe I might know a couple things better than you on certain area. So I guess our success has been that we have partnered with the right companies. And I'm not afraid to say this. When it comes to GMP, Parmuth, with Trevor Sherry, is the best company in the world. They have offices all over the world. I mean, the reason why we're so successful is because we present a solution, not because we know it all, but we have partnered with the best companies. For fiber, we partner with the best manufacturer for fiber equipment in the world. And every time I talk to other guys, they say, yeah, this is the best equipment. We've been there, and it's the best one, it's the best one, it's the best one. Not because I built it, because I did the research, and I realized those are the guys that have the best equipment, and we have the exclusive rights to sell that kind of processing equipment here in the US. but just because the best equipment, not because we built it, because we did the research.
And that's important, I think, and I think we got to start wrapping up. And I like what you closed on there, that, you know, where I worked for 20 years, and I worked with families, so it was kind of an interesting dynamic. My dad felt like he had to be the smartest guy in the room. And sometimes that was to our detriment because he wasn't seeing his own weaknesses and where other people could enhance. He recognized some people, don't get me wrong, but in general, you know, it was you got to recognize, most importantly, your own weaknesses so that you can help augment that with the people you choose to partner with. And I think you've really highlighted that well.
Yes. I mean, if you're the smarter guy in the room, you're not going to learn anything new.
Exactly.
This is something that if you ask me, Vinny, what do you think is the key to your success? I read a lot. I told you I have 2 master's degrees, and after that I have several postgraduates. I've been learning continuously because I know how ignorant I am. I think I put at least 2 or 3 hours of every single freaking day of my life to learn.
Nice. And I think everybody can learn from that, because I look at it like you're a shark. You know, if you're not learning, you're dying. You know, you got to swim forward.
Yes.
Hey, Vinny, thank you so much. This has been very enlightening, and I hope we get a chance to do it again, because I think we just scratched the surface.
That will, oh, yes. It will be nice, because next time we can talk about processes or fiber, whatever you want. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Vinny.